I want to talk just for a short time about these two great men on the screen here, just to the side of my head. Maybe you're familiar with them, maybe you don't know who they are, but irrespective of your knowledge of these two men, I want to try and give you some hope and encouragement that maybe there's somebody listening here today and you think, well, my best days are behind me. I've blown it. I'm on a downward skid, and you're just plugging along. The best is yet to come. The best days could be before you and not behind you. And I want to use these two guys as an illustration for that. So the man on the left is the late, great Johnny Cash. The man on the right is the great Rick Rubin, who I believe is arguably one of the greatest, if not the greatest, music producers of all time. They come from different generations. Johnny Cash had a career in music that spanned decades, was arguably one of the biggest recording stars in the world at a time. Then he hit troubled times, he hit dark times. His star began to fade, at least commercially, but he still continued to play his music. But he went from playing huge arenas to small clubs, dinner clubs, as he came to what he thought was the end of his career. Rick Rubin was notable for his eclectic range of artists that he worked with, producing thrash metal legends Slayer, System of a Down, Slipknot. He worked with Tom Petty. He worked with rappers like Jay-Z. A wide range of music. Adele, even. He produced Adele. But he was looking for someone to work with that maybe had seen their better days musically, or certainly their star had shone brightest sometime in the past, but they were still operational. And he sought out and he connected with Johnny Cash. And I've got just two short video clips to play you, just centering in and around how they came together and how they bounced off of each other. And it was an unusual union, but one that arguably yielded the greatest fruits of Johnny Cash's career right up until the day that he died, and introduced him to a whole new generation of new fans, younger fans, and even people that are getting into his music now, years after his death, on account of the work that he did in collaboration with Rick Rubin. So that's a shot of them when they began working together. And as you can see, Johnny's a good bit older than Rick Rubin there, but they worked for a long time together, right up until Johnny Cash's death. And this is a picture of them towards the end, and you can see on the left there, Johnny Cash had aged a lot. He had taken a stroke, and his wife had died, and he was brokenhearted. But he was still having the music coaxed out of him. He still had a sense of purpose while he was working with Rick Rubin, who also believed that it was his job to document whatever was coming out of Johnny Cash's mind, from his fingers as he played the guitar, and from his mouth as he recorded new material and covered and brought a new angle to many great songs from many alternative artists. So this is just a quick clip taken from a 60 Minutes program, and there's a link to that in the description box underneath this video. At least there will be. Check out the full interview with Rick Rubin. It's fantastic, but this is just focusing in on his introduction to, or his coming together with, Johnny Cash on a collaborative basis. He had been a fan for a long time, but this was to connect with him personally, to connect with him physically, to connect with him musically, and to begin to produce for him what are arguably his greatest works as he came towards the end of his life. Just listen to what he says.
Yeah,
What was he like?
he knew a lot. He was also a big reader and history buff. He knew a tremendous amount about music and was just an interesting, beautiful, quiet, shy person.
What was it you thought you could do with Johnny Cash?
It started more from a process perspective of been having success doing the things that I'm doing with these young artists. And I thought, okay, who's the best grown up artist I can think of who maybe isn't doing their best work or hasn't been doing their best work for a while? And the first person I thought of was Johnny Cash.
I read at the time he was sort of performing in dinner theaters.
The first time I got seen was at a dinner theater. And
That's an incredible. Just pause and let's pause and think about what Rubin has just said. So he had an idea. At this point, he had had huge success, millions upon millions upon millions upon millions of albums sold with the most cutting edge and popular groups in their field, the Red Hot Chili Peppers, Jay-Z, Slipknot, Slayer, Beastie Boys, you name it. He collaborated with them, Aerosmith, Run DMC. He didn't have anything to prove to the world, but he had something inside him that caused him to think about an older artist, maybe one that wasn't producing his best material. An unknown to Johnny Cash as he was grinding it out, still playing, still doing that thing that he loved, that he was put on this earth to do, which was to sing, to entertain, and to play. He was much older at this point. He had been bypassed by the music business at this point. He maybe thought he was washed up and spent at this point, but unknown to him, this great producer was seeking out someone to work with. And the first person that came to Rick Rubin's mind, in his own words, was Johnny Cash. And what I take from this is personally that if you do what you love, you can experience peaks and troughs. And when things are going good, it's the best thing in the world. When things aren't going so good, it can be really tough. It can be really tempting to want to quit, to want to say, the best is behind me. I've had my day. I've had my go. I've had my shot. It's over. I'm not just going to go through the motions here. I believe Cash was still driven by the passion that was in him that overrode what he could see, the smaller clubs, the smaller venues, a waning audience. He still exercised the gifts that were within him, and he still kept going. Now, if he hadn't been doing that, arguably, Rubin would not have connected with him and coaxed the best out of him, is what I'm trying to say. But he did. They did connect, and this was the beginning of it.
in Orange County, it just seemed like the world had passed him by, and he believed the world had passed them by.
What was the approach? How did you work together?
I asked him to come to my house and just play me all of his favorite songs from the course of his life, just to get an understanding of who he was. It was like a way to meet musically, not based on the music he made, but on what spoke to him.
And this is crucial also, I believe, one of the reasons why Rick Rubin is so successful. It wasn't just a musical transaction that he wanted to carry out with Johnny Cash. He wanted to get to know him as a man. He wanted to get to know what made him tick. He wanted to know what inspired him musically, what drove him musically. And because of the age difference and because of Cash's background and because of his knowledge, it ended up enhancing Rubin's own knowledge of music by getting introduced to songs that he would never have maybe heard otherwise had he not sought out Johnny Cash.
I mean, that's a beautiful way to meet somebody.
It was incredible. it really connected us, and it gave me a sense of him. And I learned so much because most of the songs he played me I'd never heard before.
Rubin looked around for lyrics that would suit the Man in Black. He picked a Nine Inch Nails song called Hurt. Cash made it his own. Hurt became one of Johnny Cash's most popular songs, and over the course of a decade, they made 7 albums together.
Is it true you used to go to communion with him?
We did communion every day.
So
He talked about the healing benefits of communion, and I said, I've never.
just as we finalize this little portion of this interview, this working relationship spanned for a period of 10 years. It wasn't just a one-off. They connected not just on a music level, but you're about to hear on a very deep level, on a very personal level, on a very spiritual level as well. And remember, these are two men whose paths had never crossed. Two unlikely, an unlikely pairing that came together at the most unlikely time. And if you're still out there, whoever you are, maybe you're listening to this and you're just enjoying this story. And if that's the case, great. It's an inspirational story and one that I revisit frequently. It inspires me. But maybe you're going through something at the minute, or you're going through the motions, or you know what you've been put on this earth to do, and you're not currently doing it to your full potential, and you feel your best days are behind you, and you're thinking that you've been forgotten about, and you're thinking that it's game over. You're thinking that you're on the downward slide. Maybe, just maybe, someone out there has yet to connect with you to get you back and beyond your greatest potential. So there's 2 ways you can look at this clip, and thank you for listening, by the way. Leave a message underneath. Are you just enjoying it on a storytelling perspective, or I didn't know that perspective, or is there something deeper there for you? Because I love this story personally. I love this story. This story really hits me deep inside because of my knowledge of the music that Rick Rubin produced, that I grew up listening to through my late teens into my 20s, 30s, and now into my 50s. And also as a fan of Johnny Cash, who was a deeply spiritual man, a flawed man, an admittedly flawed man, but one that loved the Lord Jesus Christ as his savior and was unapologetic about that and held tight to that faith and that belief to his death. And I greatly admire him and respect him for that, aside even from the great music catalog that he produced over the course of decades.
Never done communion. Would you do communion with me? So he presided over communion with me. And then I said, what, let's do it every day. And then we did it every day that we were together. And then when he left town, we kept doing it over the phone. And then we did this probably, I want to say, for at least the last 6 months of his life, maybe more. And then when he passed, I kept doing it. I could hear his voice. He was saying the words, and I kept doing it for as long as it was possible.
And that's a beautiful thing too. The music initially was what connected them, but they connected together much more deeply and on a much more spiritual level. And just to finish this off, this is just a little clip, I think, from 1993, when these two guys did come together at the beginning of their journey. And it's Johnny Cash explaining why he was surprised and taken aback that this man would have any interest in him. After all, remember, he believed that the music business and life maybe had passed him by. And then all of a sudden, this gentleman appears, and it's the beginning of an incredible decade of productivity and fellowship and communion and blessings.
Me that the man that produced the rap music and the Chili Peppers and Slayer and all of them was interested in me personally.
The opportunity of working with someone like him really excited me, so I tracked him down and we spent some time together. I went to see a couple of his shows, and we started hanging out a bit and talking about music.
That's how it starts. You seek someone out, you track them down, and you just start talking. And see what happens. And see what happens. So that's the end of this clip. Thank you if you've made it this far. If you haven't already done so, consider subscribing to this channel. It's just something a little bit, for me anyway, just a way to express and share stories that I've picked up along my way that have helped me and kept me inspired and encouraged. And I'm just simply sharing them with you. Okay, it's nothing fancy or original on my part. I'm just simply sharing what I've picked up along the way with you, the listeners. So leave me a comment below. Share the video, cut and paste the link, and send it to someone you maybe feel could benefit from hearing it. And subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. Volition. And for now, this is me, Rick Munn, over and out.